January meeting of Project Wildfire. We're a couple weeks into it, but for those that most of you I haven't talked to yet this year, happy New Year. Welcome to 2021. As we normally do in January, we're going to spend a bit of this meeting going through what we call our program of work. So we did a review last month on what we accomplished or what we collectively accomplished in 2020. Then we get together with a small group of folks and get some suggestions on our program work for 2021 and bring them back to this full group for review and hopefully some suggestions, if you have any, for additions or modifications, and then potential ideas for meeting topics as well. So Boone is going to run us through that. And then we'll have a round of updates from all the partners here today, including some exciting news on a new project that we'll be covering here after the program work. So with that, just one last reminder, if you haven't yet, if you could introduce yourself in the chat, that helps everybody else know who's here. And since we do have close to 30 people, we won't take the time to do that to start the meeting, or we'd be 30 minutes into it by the time we got around to that. So look for that information in the chat. That also does help us make sure we track you for our meeting minutes. And then with that, we will turn it over to Boone to kick us off for a program work review for 2021.
So one other reminder, right, is that it sent out those past minutes, so we won't do an approval of minutes or anything like that. But if you read through those notes and see any corrections, just remember to send those back over to me, and I'll get those updated and saved, and then repost them on the website if I need to. And then, you know, on the agenda is kind of a place marker there to do the monthly program update, which obviously this month we're doing the full year looking ahead. So I'll just keep it as part of that as we roll through it. So let me see here. So I wanted to kind of cover a few things before we jump too far into it, just kind of give this structure of where we're going today and kind of keep this framed up and why we're talking about program and work and how it fits into it, into Project Wildfire. But right, we have a mission statement with Project Wildfire. We've got a set of strategic objectives and all that. Oh, I don't know why this thing is doing that. And all that feeds into the program of work, right? And then our planned activities lay within that. So let me do this a little bit different, actually. Oh, I thought I had this open already. Sorry. Should be fast though. Go on. Oh, I accidentally closed this right before the meeting. So Project Wildfire mission statement, right? It's to prevent deaths, injury, property loss, environmental damage resulting from wildfires in Deschutes County. Pretty broad, pretty big mission statement. But we have kind of a set of ways that we're looking to achieve that.
Pretty good. I'm going to be, it's cooler.
If you're not muted, if you could please mute yourself there, everybody. But either way, we have our ways that we're achieving our mission statement, right? And then when we think about the work that we're doing ahead and how we're going to get there, we have a set of strategic objectives, which I'll just quickly look at. We want to, you know, these are the objectives that we want to use to be able to meet that mission statement. And I had all this open earlier, and I apologize for going back through it again or reopening it. And I'm not going to read each one of these, right? We have some goals that we're kind of set ahead of us that we're going to try to achieve through the year. And then we have these objectives of how we're going to be achieving those goals. So you have like goal 1, objective A, whatever it may be. I'm not going to read it. And those are met by some of that, by the activities that we plan through the year. So to track all of that, that's where we kind of put it all into our program of work. So let me scroll to the top. So some of the activities that we plan are like our CWPPs, the Community Wildfire Protection Plans. And as we're planning those out and we're trying to figure out how that's fitting into where we're headed with Project Wildfire, we look at our strategic objectives and we say, oh, it fits under goal 5. And the objective that we're meeting is A and B. So we put those in there because this is the activity we're doing. So we track that along. We have some estimated dates when we'll be working on some of that stuff. That's all estimates that get adjusted through the year. So what I thought we could do today, or the way we'd look at this, was we'd look at kind of what the program is, the activity that we're looking at over here, whether it's CWPPs, our fire free, our outreach communication, Firewise, all of these things. And we'll talk about the activity that we're doing within that. So all of that to say, we're going to talk about the activities that are planned this coming year. And there's a couple things I want to get out of this when we're done. One, to show you guys what we're looking at for the year ahead, but also to make sure and solicit everybody to make sure that we're incorporating other activities that may be aligning or that we can help out with, where we can kind of work together to achieve multiple goals at one time. Okay, so that's the program of work where it's actually recorded. And then of course, as we finish these out at the end of the year, we do the outcomes. So if you were at the meeting last month, you heard me, let's talk through 2020 and all of our outcomes and how that was achieved. So back to, where is it? Back to this guy. Come on. Too many screens on my computer, right? So we're going to just talk through the planned activities. So this year, we're going to be looking at the Greater Bend CWPP, and a little bit of how that looks is yet to be determined, but this will be our planned revision this year. And if you guys remember right, there's 7 of them across the county and they're on a 5-year rotation. So every 5 years we update these. And part of that update is what are the, what kind of activities were accomplished across all of our partners. And then we also revisit, what the objectives or what the mission of the CWPP is, like what are our priorities that we're going to work on. So we look at all of that, bring all of our partners together, talk about the activities that we've accomplished, record all of that. So it gives us that common kind of ground or mission or view, if you will, of what we're working on within those areas. So this is the one we're talking about here. And then of course, we're going to be looking at Fire Free for 2021. Last year, if you remember right, we extended those dates pretty long, if you will, due to COVID, right? We did 3 weekends and the 2 weeks in between, and we did that across all the transfer sites. And then also on top of extending those dates, we also didn't have our volunteer base like we did in the past. We had a lot of help, so it was a pretty good push for waste management to be able to handle all that. But this year we'll be planning likely the same kind of time frame, sometime around the 1st of May. Those dates are going to be, we'll be discussing those dates here in the near future and kind of getting them solidified, but it should be sometime around the 1st of May. And if we can, hopefully the same kind of 3 weekends with 2 weeks in between. It was quite successful last year as far as what we brought in, and then be able to offer it again this year will be pretty awesome. Any questions on Fire Free? It seems like I get a lot of emails about it. So anybody while we're on here want to ask a quick question? Yeah. I'll provide time at the end too that we can go back on any of these topics and talk more about them. And you guys can add to it whatever you need to. And then there's quite a few additional activities. I kind of rolled some of those other things that we just saw on the program of work from the, outreach, the Firewise, Fire Adaptive Communities Network. Some of that stuff that we saw on that left-hand side, I kind of rolled them all into one slide so we can talk about them. But if you remember last year, we did defensible space classes at COCC, myself, Ed, and Allison, and then COVID set in, and then we went and took them virtual, and we put a couple more classes on virtually, which turned out pretty good. So Ed and I have been talking about trying to plan some more classes this year, so they'd be aimed again at our HOAs or residents, and pretty much anyone who wants to join in to be part of those classes. But it really helps us to solidify the message that we're planning and kind of how it's going to happen. Right now, we were thinking spring, summer, fall, and we're hoping spring comes around. We have the ability to do it virtually, but if we can do it in person, possibly doing it that way. So I'm hoping to talk to Paula. I saw your camera came back on, so you might have a couple comments on that. And then hopefully we'll be able to put them on in person at some point. Paula, do you want to add anything?
Well, I was going to say, right at the moment, everything looks like virtual, but I'm thinking going into fall with the vaccine and everything, I haven't heard anything different. My hope is that we're semi back to normal-ish come fall. So I'm hoping for some in-persons in fall at least, and we could see where we're at for summer. But I know, like, just for my wildland for the rest of this year, it's going to be virtual. It's just too many people in one room.
Yeah, well, the demand, it seems like it's grown for all classes, whether it's defensible space or what, as more and more people are aware of their fire risk, but also just that there hasn't been so many classes offered. Yeah. But as we work forward, Paul, I'll talk to you more about it as we kind of look at how it's going to work. So those will be good. And then when we do those, of course, I'll send those out to, I kind of maintain 2 distribution lists. And one is for our Project Wildfire group, folks interested in kind of all things Project Wildfire. And then I have another group that's for communities, that are currently FireWise or interested in being FireWise or have been doing some kind of defensible space actions, field reduction. So I send it out to both of those lists, so everybody's receiving all of that. Grants, we continue to have some Joint Chiefs in Southern Deschutes County. We'll be looking at getting a few communities together which reminds me, I need to talk to Ed about some of that. But either way, we'll be putting together a few more communities in the fall to get some of that curbside chipping programs working again. Yeah, I think fall, more than likely, that'll be the last round of funds, if I remember right, talking to Ed, that we'll have for Joint Chiefs. So we'll get that out and on the ground. So if you're in Southern Deschutes and you're interested or think you could put together one, let us know. Yeah, and then switching down to FireWise, this last year, I think every year we have at the end of the year, when we tally all the numbers, we have somewhere around 10 communities in the hopper that are in some kind of steps or in the process of becoming FireWise. And then we usually end up with 4 or 5 of them actually making it through all the way to recognition by the end of the year. So we'll continue to kind of move those numbers along and keep those folks going. Last year we had the workshops. Right now we don't have anything planned like that, but the workshops were pretty awesome. We do have a lot of resources available, and it was fun to do those workshops because we were able to see kind of what all the communities were doing between newsletters and projects and stuff like that. So we're hoping to figure out ways to share that. And that kind of moves me into the FACnet, the Fire Adapted Communities Network. And one of the first things on there is the story maps that we're looking at and FireWise story maps. So kind of building off of what we've already got with FireWise communities in Deschutes County, but also everything that we put together out of the workshops. Hoping to put together, or we're in the middle of putting together, a story map that we can share that stuff out where we can, if you're not, maybe I should start with what a story map is. Story map is basically a web page. Most folks are familiar with them. Oftentimes you see them and don't even know that you're looking at one. But the story map is a web page that as you scroll through, it kind of tells a story of something, and it may be spatially associated data. So you may have something that needs to be mapped like our FireWise communities. So the hope is that as we put together this FireWise story map, we're able to scroll through, tell the story of what it means to be FireWise in Deschutes County, talk about the ecosystem here in Deschutes County, that we recognize that we're living in a fire adapted ecosystem and that we all have responsibility. And then one of the ways that we can look at that responsibility and how we can take it on, head on, is by looking into programs such as FireWise. And then we want to profile one, well, we want to profile those communities and show the good work that they've been doing. I mean, there's a lot of, like, there's several communities on this call right now that it's pretty awesome to see the work and the things that are getting done in those communities. And especially, from the time that I started in Central Oregon to now, you can drive in those communities and see the changes over that time. I think when you move into it, you don't realize how much has changed since, over the last 10 years. But the Firewise story map, we're hoping to show where those communities are and then be able to navigate around within the map and tell the story of some of those communities, of what they've done as projects, but also kind of show some of the ways that they've done those projects so that we can begin to share those things across all the communities within Deschutes County. So more and more folks are able to kind of see what's possible. We can also talk about the grants that we've been working on and just be able to kind of get those connections put together. There's a lot of communities in the past that we've done the mentor program. I think it was in 2016, somewhere around there, where Firewise communities were helping other communities become Firewise. So hopefully we're able to kind of bridge that gap again in a very similar manner, where communities are able to lend help to one another. So we're putting together a story map, a web page to show those communities, the projects they've done, and help to bridge the gap on what's potential or what's out there. And then, I guess that's the end of my slide. And then the other one that we're looking at for story maps is our CWPPs. And I started the talk today talking about how many there are. And there's the 7 across the county, right? And I think if we start looking at it, we begin to kind of see a lot of similarities, and the story map plays really well to the CWPPs. It's a great tool to be able to show where all those communities are, be able to see a lot of the similarities between one another, so we can see our risk that we have. So we have the tools that we're using to quantify the risk between all those CWPPs, like the Oregon Wildfire Risk Explorer, sorry. So we're hoping to be able to embed that so you can see kind of the risk, you can see where all the communities are, but also as you kind of go through the story map, you'll be able to find your area where the CWPP is, see the risk relative to your area, and then be able to see the accomplishments that have happened. And also, again, be able to kind of highlight those accomplishments, talk about what they are, and then also kind of address a little bit of where we're heading over the next few years before the next revision of the CWPP. So I think that's going to lend itself to a couple different things real well. One is the communicating what the CWPPs are, where they're at, and just getting people aware of them. And then the other part of it, I think, is we're also going to be lending ourselves to being able to have a platform where we can show that commonality, so we're not duplicating efforts every time we go around to each CWPP. We're actually able to kind of show one package of what Deschutes County is and talk about the fire history, the risk across Deschutes County, and all those similar pieces. We also have, as part of our Fire Adapted Communities Network program, we have another item in there that we're working on, which is a material revision. And this was, Ed and I had talked about this last week, and we're kind of moving forward with revising some of the materials. And I think if you guys, several folks are familiar with these, but we have a folder that when you open it up, it's got several handouts that we give to communities, and we usually give them out to the leaders of the communities, if you will, the people that are kind of moving the community forward in defensible space and kind of risk awareness. And then if you look at those handouts, they're the ones that you've seen if you've attended our meetings in person, that are kind of the story of Project Wildfire, Fire Free, all those pamphlets that are just single rack card kind of stuff, or a little trifold that you can look at. But as we were looking at printing this last year, Ed and I were talking about this, that we needed to revise it because we're going to print stuff, but a lot of the information in there was old. Some of the email addresses, the telephone numbers and stuff like that was all outdated. And the person in the position before me, when Jody was here, she was printing a small sticker to stick right over top of the contacts. And we continue to do that, but at some point we've got to start looking at it and like, okay, is it time to revise this material, or what should we do? So we decided that we should probably revise it, And then I kind of added on to it, like, well, if we're going to revise that, maybe we should pull everything out of that red folder contents that we were just talking about and identify one, what needs to be revised because it's outdated, and then two, what should be revised or combined so that we're not giving somebody 20 handouts with similar or duplication across all of them, so we can get something that's a little more simplified but gets to the point. And then the other part of it is if we go to print, we want to make sure that we're doing something that's it's not static, not something that we print a palette of and then we've got to try to use it out over the next 20 years. We want to make something that we revise it, we can print a year's worth, end of the year, we can revisit it, make sure that it still aligns with the mission of Project Wildfire and where we're at with all of our partners, and we can revise it again and then reprint for another year, not have stacks and stacks of it and stuck with having to put stickers over the top of things to try to keep it current. So that's one of the pieces that we want to get revised. So those are kind of some bigger chunks, right, between the classes, the story maps, some material revision. We've got a lot of things that are continuing that always are happening every year. So we've got some of our presentations to our neighborhood associations. So pretty continual that every couple of weeks there's a HOA that myself or Ed or a combination of us or with a lot of our partners with the rural fire districts, we put on presentations to communities with their HOA annual meetings. And one of those that we're looking at again this year, we'll begin talks here shortly, is the Fire Ready Bend. It was canceled last year. It was held at COCC the year before, but we're hoping to engage there again to do more presentations and outreach, just keeping everybody aware of the risk that we all live in. And then I'm sure there are others that I don't have on here. We've got the Aubrey Butte Neighborhood Association, which is usually heavily involved with Fire Ready Bend, but they also have their annual meeting, which involves, I think, like 13 HOAs are represented at that. So we're able to reach out to quite a few HOAs at one time and kind of hit several folks. And then there's also the Century South. I think that's what, I can't remember the name of the association without looking at the abbreviation. But that's another group that also represents several associations that we'll be presenting to. Okay, I just ran through that pretty quick. A couple of cups of coffee and I find myself talking fast. So at this point, I kind of want to see what people are thinking is if there are other things that I'm kind of missing in there or pieces that you're that I'm not bringing up. I actually see one here that I've got. Are you going to mention the desire to have a social get together later in the year? Yeah, so normally we have a Project Wildfire barbecue in the spring, and we missed it this last year for obvious reasons, right? So we haven't really planned anything for the spring. We had a little bit of talk about doing something late summer, and it kind of depends on how our fire season goes, or something in the fall. It would be dependent on what we have for partners here to be able to show up, because we may be lacking a few folks, but it would be nice to be able to have some kind of a get together like we have in the past, where we recognize one another for the good work that we're doing. There's always somebody within the county, it seems, that's kind of pushing the envelope, doing something new, or finding new ways to accomplish their goals with fire readiness. So if we can find some way to get together to do something in person, that would be awesome. I got nothing right now planned for dates, but we did talk when we were in our small group, when we worked on the program of work, about what that would look like. And I think we just got to kind of fill it out a little bit more and kind of see how the year goes. But I would really like to be able to do something like that. Ed, do you have anything there that I'm skipping or neglecting to hit?
I don't. I would just invite people, to if you have thoughts of things that we can, projects that we can collaborate on, we're open to that. We would also, if this looks like a fairly good list, and you don't have any thoughts, that's fine. We'd also invite any input on meeting topics as well. So Boone and I kind of keep a running list of potential speakers to come. We try to spend half of the meeting at least in some kind of a where we're learning from each other. And so we started a list with we had a list already started between Boone and I, and then we added to that with our small group. But we'd also take input on additional topics that you'd like to hear us bring a speaker in or give a presentation on for 2021. So input on either of those from folks would be helpful.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. So I got the list up right now, and you don't have to read through it if you want to just throw out something if you're thinking about it that I don't have up there, or something you want to hear about, and I can add it to the list. Got a question here. Any plans for practice evacuations for HOAs? I don't have any planned evacuation stuff, so that's something we can talk to with Nathan Garrity, our emergency manager. I believe he's done some of those in the past. Correct me if I'm wrong, Ed, where you guys have done some evacuation stuff with communities, or at least went out and did some talks with them about how that would work and how it looks. And I don't want to offer something without him being here or anything, but I know he's done that in the past. But if we're looking for something like that, he would likely be the person to coordinate it.
Yep.
I got a question about the bin. Will the bin Parks and Rec site on Simpson Avenue be available for springtime needle drop off this year? So I don't know about a bin Parks and Rec site. I think what you're referring to is the one that's the tree farm owned by, it's Miller Tree Farm over there. Brooks Resource has helped us or given us that site for the needle drop off for the Fire Free weekend. And the plan is to use that again this year. I was just emailing with them last week, seeing what the availability of that site will be. And they said they needed to talk with their contractors to make sure no one's parked in there and they're not using it for anything. But last year, the plan was it would be available at least again this year. And that will be sometime around that 1st of May again, for dates of when we do that. So hopefully that's still going to happen.
Yeah, and I would just clarify if people missed that. So the site on Simpson was used to be owned by Deschutes County. We sold that to OSU Cascades, and of course that's now being developed into the university there. And so we've moved sites a couple years ago now to the site of the tree farm off of Skyliners. So just so everybody's clear on the Simpson site was a site that we had for many years, but that's why it's not available there anymore, is that is now OSU Cascades.
Yeah, which all that stuff is pretty awesome, right? I love the Fire Free and how much we kind of work around it. It seems like it's the heart of a lot of the work that gets done out there, whether it's planning for the event and getting the message out to the community so that they're actively taking it to one of those sites, or since it's free disposal, lots of communities are renting those bins, setting them up, and then allowing their communities to dump yard debris in it. And then it's just the cost of the rental of the bin and not the cost of all the stuff being dumped. But it's got to be timed out with Fire Free as well.
And Boone, one thing on that tree farm site, there's a temporary trail that Ben Parks just opening this week that'll go through there. So we'll just have to work around that a little bit.
Oh, okay. Well, you do that right, Jeff. You might be able to have hikers go out and clean up along the trail and then bring it back and drop it off there.
I like the way you think.
Good to see you, Jeff. Yeah. One of the, what is this one? One of the things we talked about in our work group the other day was just make sure that we're being inclusive to a couple different groups that feels like we've kind of lost some representation from. We had Gary Githens from the insurance industry, who was he's been on the steering committee for years, and he's dropped off, right? So we've been kind of hoping that we would find somebody that has a bit of a passion for wildfire that would also be able to represent the insurance industry. So hopefully somebody of that nature would be able to join. So if you know somebody, definitely reach out to them, let them know about our meetings. We're open to anyone. They come check it out, and if they feel that they want to pursue it, then we'll definitely include them on everything to keep them in the loop. Right now, you know, one of the things that everyone always asks is, do your insurance companies offer, I've got a couple different things here I'm missing, offer discounts. USAA is one of the only ones that offers a discount at this point on your insurance for being Firewise. Yeah, there's, and Jeff, there's also some folks in here that are looking for just maybe making a connection with you about fuels reduction work that you've got planned on some of your properties that adjoin some of the neighborhoods. And if you want to talk offline, I can give you a phone call and put you in contact with people about that as well. I think I've got 2 people that are curious of what you guys got planned with different pieces of property. Oh, it looks like Jeff actually left the meeting. Okay.
Kevin, we can connect you up with Jeff, who just was speaking, but then looks like he left. But Jeff is the natural resource manager for Bend Parks and can talk with you about fuel reduction. So
yeah.
And then, yeah, I do see a couple comments there about insurance, like Boone was mentioning. We'll look into that. I think that that's something that is a perennial interest to people, and I think it would be good to maybe get a presentation, even if it's not somebody that participates in the meeting every month. If we could get them in for one meeting and kind of talk about it a little bit. I think people tend to be underinsured, and they find that out after wildfire. So yeah, we'll note that as an additional topic. So thank you for that.
Yeah, thanks, Ed. Yeah, that would be a good one. There's definitely like I get my insurance company calls me all the time. They want to just sit down. So I've been pushing them off this last 2 years just because I've been busy in life. But yeah, that would be a good one to make sure that people are aware of their policy and what it does cover and what it does not, and plan that for prior to fire season. Not to regurgitate what Ed just said, but yeah, that's a good one.
So Boone, I think with that, unless there's somebody clamoring for input, you can always send us some input after the meeting. If you think of something, we'll have time for roundtable. So if you want to speak up then as well. But I think with that, that's maybe our program of work for the year. And of course, Boone also sent that out in email. So you'll have a hard copy of it as well in your email. If you want to delve into that, like we say, and give us any input, we're still open to that as we move through the year. So with that, and before we go to our roundtable, we do have one other pretty significant announcement. Boone's pulled up a map there. Boone, do we want to turn this over to Lars?
Yeah. Yeah, hopefully we're not surprising Lars and he's ready for this.
Hey, good morning, everybody. Lars here. Can you hear me all right, Boone?
Yes.
Yep.
All right. I believe Alex is on the meeting as well. So for those who don't,
I jumped on.
okay, nice. For those who don't know me, my name is Lars Santana. I work with the NRCS, the Natural Resources Conservation Service. And so we're an agency under the USDA, US Department of Ag. And for those who don't know about Joint Chiefs is a way that USDA can prioritize funds, conservation dollars and project funds for forestry related projects. And in this case, it's a lot of fuels reduction related projects. And so the chief of the NRCS basically gets together with the chief of the U.S. Forest Service, and they kind of work together. You know, we develop a proposal at the local level and send it up the chain, and then our leadership approves or not approves those proposals. And so over the last, I don't know, it's been over a year now, there's been a group kind of working on a proposal, and a lot of partners have been involved with that effort. A lot of folks that are in the meeting here today. And so, yeah, so pretty exciting. We just got word that that our proposal got approved. There was 29 proposals across the country, and 8 were selected across the country. And so 2 of them were in Oregon, which is pretty neat. We got this one here in our area, and then also one in Lake County. So you guys might hear about some efforts over in Lake County and parts of Klamath County over there too. So yeah, I think kind of that's a general big picture overview. It's a 3-year project. In the proposal, we requested over $13 million, I believe, for over 3 years. Now that's what we requested. I don't know if that's what we'll get. It's always kind of subject to annual, you know, leadership decisions, but they approved our proposal, which is a huge first step. And so now, you know, we'll start hearing about funding and stuff. It's still a little bit early in the process, but right now, yeah, right now it's approved. And so with the NRCS, we primarily focus our conservation efforts on private lands. So on the screen there, you can see the Joint Chiefs boundary for the Buttes to Basins. That's what we're calling it. And so it encompasses parts of Jefferson County and also parts of Deschutes County. And so with NRCS, so now we're going to be taking applications with private landowners who want to do forestry related projects within this boundary, and projects that focus on fuels reductions. So our programs, they're not like 100% cost share. You know, they cover somewhere in the neighborhood of like 50 to 75% of the costs, depending on what the project is. And they're kind of geared a little bit towards maybe a little bit larger acreage size. So, you know, in the neighborhood of 15 acres plus, those are usually where our cost share programs tend to pan out better for folks. The smaller acreage size forestry projects, it seems like the cost per acre goes up as, you know, the smaller the project is. So anyway, I don't want to take up too much time, but feel free to reach out to me. And then I want to turn it over to Alex, and Alex can maybe talk about the Forest Service side of the Buttes to Basins Joint Chiefs proposal.
Yeah, thanks, Lars. Yeah, Alex Enna here. I'm the Fuels Program Manager on the Deschutes National Forest, and I'm, as Lars stated, we had a kind of a larger planning committee assembled for this Joint Chiefs proposal, and we spent the better part of a year working on it. So yeah, great news that we are successful. As far as the funding amounts, what I heard is, you know, we weren't funded in full as far as our request amount, but for this year, look, the NRCS looks like $400,000 funded for NRCS programs, which was the full request amount for fiscal year 21. And then on the Forest Service side, 1.7 or almost $1.8 million going to the forest for various programs. A lot of that was planned for fuels reduction work in the fire shed surrounding Sisters, and for a bunch of projects on the west side of Bend. But also included in that is some aquatic restoration work in the Sisters area, some wildlife habitat improvement work, and also funding for some programs with through the State and Private Forestry Office of the Forest Service with Deschutes County and ODF. So kind of definitely an all hands, all lands approach and a rather large sum of money for getting work done. So pretty exciting about that. I will put, we put a story map together similar to the one Boone's talking about assembling for Project Wildfire, but we did put a story map together that we included with our proposal, and I'll put a link to that in the chat so people can check that out. As far as, we don't have, the funding's hasn't showed up yet. And we don't know the individual budget line items that, how it's broken out. So as far as, what that means is how much is going is for hazard fuels, how much is for wildlife, how much is for aquatic restoration and whatnot. But as soon as the funding shows up, we'll have a better idea on that. Oh, and thanks, Ed already shared the story map. Thanks, Ed. Yeah, I'll leave it at that unless there's questions about it. Just some, some exciting news. This was a long time in the works. We spent over a year working on it, and I think we have it says a lot about as far as the Central Oregon being a good investment for this kind of funding. And Lars mentioned that the Fremont Wainema, it was also awarded a project this year, but also, the Ochoco has an ongoing project. This will be their second year of Joint Chiefs for a project out there on the Ochoco, the Prineville area. And then also I saw that the Mount Hood National Forest is receiving money for some work in the Wasco County area. So I have lots of work going on the east side of the Cascades, not just on the Deschutes, but a lot of our adjoining forests as well.
Great, thanks, Alex. If you have questions, you can come off mute or put them in the chat. Otherwise, we just wanted to share this. Just learned of this last week, and it's pretty great news. I was really excited to hear that, as we had applied in the past and been successful in the south part of the county, and this will allow us to continue a lot of needed work. Both in the northern half of the Deschutes County as well as into Jefferson County. So great.
Add to that real fast, Ed.
Yep.
Just to clarify, right? We get caught up in doing these proposals and we see our pieces of it, but just kind of to frame this up in a big picture for what this means down to the HOA level, right? Is with that partnership, that those funds are split up between several agencies that are partners. So that's the Forest Service, NRCS, Oregon Department of Forestry, and Deschutes County. I'm sure we have a couple in there that I may be missing at the moment, but thinking off the top of my head, that's where it's at. And those funds are kind of divvied out. So as Lars kind of talked about, so Alex talked about the Forest Service side of things. Lars is talking about large landowners doing large forestry projects, smaller stuff, that 5, 10s, whatever it might be, but smaller stuff where it doesn't become cost effective for NRCS. ODF picks up a lot of that. And then getting down to the community level, that's where we step in with the county, where we'll be able to help out with some of that stuff where we're looking at some kind of whatever it might be, roadside chipping or individual lot kind of cleanup stuff, however that may look. But that's the way that it kind of trickles through all of those entities, just to kind of see how that works. Okay, that's all I got.
Okay, we will shift over to a roundtable then. And of course, if you don't have anything to share, we can pass you by, but this is your chance to share what you have going on, and usually results in other people learning, good information that they probably needed to know as well. So I'll just go down my list, and if you have something to share, we will do that. So I'm just going to start at the top with Ariel and see if anything from OSU Extension Fire Program you have anything to share, Ariel?
No, I've got nothing new to share, and I actually have to take off right now.
Okay.
But yeah, thanks for having me.
Thanks, good to see you. All right. How about Boyd Turner from Eagle Crest?
Howdy all. Mostly, we're just pushing on with the usual Firewise stuff around here. But the other thing that we've started is, hold up to the camera here. We've had a lot of concern from our residents about evacuation stuff. So I'm glad somebody else brought that piece up earlier. We've started with trying to generate some information, maybe a dual-sided one-sheet handout form that has information, including a map of our community and evacuation routes. And we're just getting started on that. So it's too bad Nathan's not here because we need to make some contact with him. But that's where we're going. We have a lot of concern about that in our community after last September. I think that's a thing that maybe the larger group here could kind of tag on as part of the extended part of fire. What do we do with all our residents when fire threatens? So I think that's an evolving topic. And that's all I have this morning.
Thanks, Boyd. We'll try to make that connection with Nathan. I'll make myself a note. He's been a bit busy leading our acting as the incident commander for our pandemic response here locally. So that may be what he's wrapped it up in this morning. I would guess, but we'll try to make that connection for you. All right, next on my list is Brandy Foster. Hi, Brandy. Anything to share with the group?
Good morning, everybody. Thanks for having me. Working with the Central Oregon Association of Realtors to figure out exactly which community partnership this partnership belongs in and how we can, of course, report back and forth. Just on a completely individual level for property owners, one of the things that we run into as real estate agents is folks looking at property and saying, wow, this needs some fuels reduction. Don't you guys have wildfire here? We run into that a lot. We don't have any data on it, so I can't tell you how often it discourages folks, but in short, it impacts your ability to resale your property, but no specific information. But how, more or less, as real estate agents, how can we refer people back to Project Wildfire, to the websites? They can get involved in their HOAs so they can do what they can, because a lot of these parcels are half-acre, 1 acre, 2 acre parcels with a home on it. So really looking forward to being able to increase that communication to the individual landowner, share these resources. This is good work here, everybody. Thank you.
Great, thanks for joining us. Yeah, that's a connection we definitely need to strengthen. And I think that comes up in a lot of conversations of how do we connect better and get our information out through realtors that are working with all the new people that are moving to our communities. So thanks for joining us. All right, next on my list is Chase from Department of Forestry. Chase, do you have anything to share? Or do you...
Hey, I'm filling in on Chase's computer. He's on the phone. I'm Ross Huffman, though. I'm out of the sister's office, Stewardship Forester. You know, for us on our side, we're just kind of plugging away on these grants that we're currently working on. So we have the one in Deschutes in Crook County. So working on those and waiting to see our fate for a couple other grants that we put in for last year. So hopefully we can get some more money on the ground to help out the smaller landowners.
Great, thanks for joining us, Ross. And for folks that haven't had a chance to meet Ross yet, yeah, Ross is new with the Oregon Department of Forestry as their new Stewardship Forester covering the Sisters subunit. So thanks for joining us. All right, I will keep moving down my list. David Mormon with the Red Cross.
Good morning. Not much to report from the Red Cross. I think the only thing I might mention is our response to the West Side wildfires actually continued through the end of December. And we finally turned over our remaining care and feeding of clients that we had been housing in motels over to the state. So that was a pretty extended experience for our volunteers working from Labor Day through the end of the year, but we were glad to be able to provide that service. And I'm sure we learned a lot of lessons that'll help in the future.
Great, thanks, David. Good morning, Dean. Dean Richardson with Upper Deschutes River Communities. Anything to report or share?
Yes, good morning, Ed. And to everyone, Happy New Year. A longtime board member for the Upper Deschutes River Communities was asking me last week which communities or areas did I consider were high risk in South Deschutes County, and I had to reply to him that I believe that all the areas and communities are at high risk, although some are extreme high risk. And even our Firewise sites can use ongoing attention. So I think he was kind of surprised by that, but maybe you can correct me if I'm mistaken. And then based on a previous Project Wildfire meeting where we had the presentation for proposed construction changes to build houses that are more resistant to wildfire. I participated in that survey and answered the questions, but I was kind of surprised that there was no room for like comments or questions associated with that. And basically, I got to vote to go along with, in my area, the more strict kind of construction guidelines, but it left out, it was only for rural areas or just for the rural areas that were designated as forest, F1, F2 forest zoning. And I think that some of the suburban or even the urban areas still have a lot of exposure to wildfire. And I was wondering why they were left out. And then beyond that, it was only addressing new construction. And we have thousands, tens of thousands of structures all over Deschutes County here that that are not hardened against ember intrusion, for instance. And I would like to suggest that messaging, education, communication be a little bit wider known as to what people can do to improve their resistance to ember intrusion, and in all the grant, we're applying for more grants for our area, but I think maybe if people knew that their houses were really vulnerable, they'd like to do something, but we might need to start thinking for the future in how we can assist people and come up with some pretty clear guidelines. So thank you very much. Oh, and more prescribed fire, please.
Thanks, Dean. Yeah, and just to clarify, the survey that the Community Development Department was conducting, that was for the unincorporated areas of the county, as that's the area that we have the actual jurisdiction over. It's up to the cities to decide if they want to enforce that within the cities. That's not up to the county. There will be a presentation given to the Board of Commissioners. That's coming up, I believe, this Wednesday, so tomorrow. If you want to tune in and watch that, we can get you a link, or you can just go to the Deschutes County website and look for the link to meeting information. And the results of that survey will be presented to the board. And then we do plan, if you don't want to tune into that, to have a presentation in February. We're hoping to have community development attend our meeting in February to cover what that survey, the results of that survey was. So, so hopefully that covers your questions there, Dean. We will next move on to Denise, who I believe is actually Bert Newmeyer. So Bert from Tillicum Village, how are you today?
Good morning. Can you hear me?
I can.
Yes, great. My contribution this morning really is that we had our annual meeting, the HOA meeting. It was a Zoom meeting, and we had Boone present, and he did a marvelous job. Really spot on, talked about defensible space, and all the feedback that that I've received has been glowing. So it's a Saturday, and I know he was away from his family and all, which is sort of a pain, but we really appreciated his help with that. And I thought that, you know, want to make sure he gets recognition for that. Usually hear the bad news, right? It's nice to hear good news. The other thing that Boyd talked about having an evacuation handout information really intrigued me, because we are also thinking along the same lines at Tillicum for evacuation routes. And then also the other piece to the conversation really is newsletter items. And I'd like to see if we can have a few of the HOAs get together and share some of the newsletter items that they've been putting out to their communities, because I find that I'm sometimes struggling to put stuff in for each month. And Firewise, you know, NFPA does a wonderful job with some of their handouts, and we can sometimes use those to share with our, you know, share with our 163 families. But it would be nice to know what other HOAs are doing as well, and maybe we can kind of pool our resources in that regard as well. I don't know whether that's something that we could do, you know, as part of one of our meetings, or if we could do it separately with maybe some guidance from you, Ed, or you, Boone, but that would be something helpful, I think, that the HOAs could have.
That's a great suggestion, Bert. And yeah, we'll talk about how to best do that. But I think that's a good idea. I just actually sent Chris Meow with Woodside Ranch a pretty lengthy list of ideas that she's working on for an upcoming newsletter. But I think we could share that more broadly. So we'll think about how best to do that.
Thanks very much.
All right, Doug Green, Sisters in Bend Fire. Anything to share?
Thanks, Ed. I guess the only thing real quick would be that the city of Bend is just about to start. We put together a wildfire resiliency task force, and we've invited a number of kind of stakeholders to be part of that. A few of those are on the Project Wildfire team. We're going to be having our first meeting next week. And this is going to be a group that comes up with some recommendations to make everything within the city of Bend more wildfire resilient. That can be landscape regulations, potentially buildings, structural hardening. There's a whole list of things that this steering committee is going to take a look at. And we're going to try to have something so we can make recommendations to the Bend City Council by June of this year. We'd love to have something in front of them before wildfire season. So if anybody out there, HOAs within the city of Bend, et cetera, has any questions or suggestions on that, just feel free to get in touch with me. Again, our first meeting is going to be next week. So it'll be a few months before we really get things underway. We're going to be doing mainly background education of that task force initially, but the goal is to come up with some recommendations to present to City Council by this June to see if they can adopt something to make mitigation efforts within the city mandatory. We're yet to see what that's going to entail, but feel free to reach out to me if anyone has any questions or recommendations on it. So And let me add something real quick, Ed, on that. The City of Sisters is looking to do something really similar. We're kind of in that same process. We haven't put together any type of a task force, but I know City Council and city staff within the City of Sisters is very interested in that. There's a lot of traction there, and we're hoping to do something similar there. That's all I got.
Great. Thanks, Doug. Okay, Georgia Hill, Rigid Eagle Crest.
Morning. The Rigid Eagle Crest has had their $29,000 budget approved for 2021, and we have put together a full year calendar of activities to handle grass management and fuel reduction, and we'll continue with our programs. Thank you.
Great, that's exciting to hear. All right, Dave Gibson with Black Butte Ranch. Hi, Dave.
Good morning. I'm holding here in my hand a draft plan for the Black Butte Ranch wildlife safety improvements. And it's being put together by the Black Butte Fire Department Board of Directors, of which for some reason I'm one of. And for some reason, you know, we've been using Senate Bill 360 for years. And a lot of our property owners have finally bit the bullet and, you know, done a good job of that. But the president of our board of directors thinks it's not good enough. So we're working on trying to improve Senate Bill 360. So that's going to happen not this Thursday, but next Thursday. And I've got to put a lot of thought into that because some of his ideas are way over the top. That's all I have.
All right. Thanks, Dave. All right, let's see who's next on my list. Looks like Gordon Foster with Department of Forestry.
Morning, folks. Gordon Foster with Department of Forestry, Prineville Sisters Unit Forester. So just to go back to introduction of Ross Huffman. So he just came on January 4th. So glad to have him on board as a stewardship forester there in Sisters. And as he said, we're still applying for additional grants. So we got another grant application process for community assistance. So we'll be looking at some stuff in the Sisters Bend area to apply for. And then just of note and kind of high level here. So the Legislative E-Board awarded ODF or gave ODF additional funding for this biennium. So portion of that will be going to some mitigation work. Still kind of unsure what that looks like in the near future, but maybe some additional funding there. So other than that, we're just preparing for fire season and hopefully we get more snow and rain coming. So keep it coming, please. So thanks.
Yeah, it sure didn't seem like January this weekend. I can say that. All right. Looks like next on my list would be Jessica Burge. Anything to share?
Hello, good morning, everyone, and Happy New Year. I don't have any updates this morning, but thank you so much for all of the great work you've been doing.
All right, thanks. Okay, Kathy Baker Katz.
Yeah, hi. I just wanted to introduce Kevin Hopper. He just signed off. He was with us all morning until just a minute ago. He's a new board member for Windermere Homeowners Association. And he and I are kind of making up our Firewise committee thus far. We're going to try and get some more folks. We have many new residents in our neighborhood. So Kevin and I are going to try and do a little outreach, in-person outreach, you know, talk to them about the Firewise program. And we have some good materials to share in person and of course online in our Windermere online newsletter. And we just put up our Firewise sign. So we're pretty happy about that. We've got that big old metal sign posted. And of course, we are interested in to have somebody, maybe, somebody like Doug Green or Boone or anybody who likes to do homeowner association annual meeting presentations. Because like I said, we have lots of new residents. And I believe that's all we have. Thanks.
Great, thanks for joining us. And I inadvertently missed Jack Hammond with the parks. I think he took himself off mute, and then I lost my place on the list of attendees. So we'll go back to Jack. Jack, welcome.
Hi, Ed. Thank you. I want to share that something that Boone Zimmerly shared with me, and that is my wife and I walk a lot over here on the west side. We're just to the west of OSU. And once you get enough information as your neighborhood's trying to become recognized Firewise, it's almost impossible to walk around and not go crazy, because you look at what you are assumed to be communities that have already said we're Firewise, and you see at virtually every home this checklist of things that people should do. And it has us worried, actually, because I think we're still concerned about buy-in here. People might say, fine, I don't want my house to burn down, but my gosh, are you telling me I have to go get a chainsaw to cut down that juniper that's underneath my eaves? I don't have a chainsaw. Or what am I supposed to replant it with? Or it just goes on and on like that. Now, a really happy note for me is to meet Brandy Foster, the real estate, because I think that's probably, between realty and insurance, something that might catch the attention of more than just a few people. And Brandy, if there is some kind of effort on I guess almost like a statement from realtors who would say, hey folks, your investment, for that reason, maybe it's another good reason to decide to do something, get off the dime for your individual place. So that's great. And then somebody else had mentioned insurance. I think the same thing goes. Let people know it either is or is not going to happen with your particular insurance company, but here's the reasons why you should. Finally, I think that newsletter items sharing idea, I guess it was Dean Richardson, is marvelous. And I would say this, Dean, I think the direction we're going to try to go is this. The biggest pushback we get might come from people who legitimately say, if I have a yard for fire, then is it deer proof? And if it's deer proof and fireproof, can I contribute to the help in saving water? And so people, I don't know, don't really want to look at their yard just from a fire perspective, because they have all these other competing things. In our neighborhood, it's, I want to have a yard that I don't have to do a darn thing to, I want to hire a mow and blower. But I think this integrated approach is going to be more successful. Again, somebody like the realtors might help on that, to be able to say that, but also, I know she's gone. I cannot wait until Amy Jo and the others at OSU Extension do their update to their wonderful Firewise FireSafe publication, because I think that's just a huge resource, and it does incorporate all those things I just mentioned: critters, fire, water, all those things. So that's where we are. We're not yet certified, or I forget what the word is, but we're going to make a push.
Thanks, Jack. All right, Kevin Hopper. I think we lost you there for a second. Kevin.
Came back. I had to step out of the room when Kathy Katz spoke, who's my next door neighbor, and I'm taking over her position here in Windermere on our homeowners association board. As she mentioned, we got our sign up recently. Very happy about that. In conjunction with that, I, taking on my new role, walked our entire association recently, just taking an inventory. Was very pleased to find that most of our association has really cleaned up, and I literally found one property of major concern. And I have redirected my concerns now towards neighboring communities on Aubrey Butte and the Bend Park and Rec areas that we can look at our neighborhood, but you got to see who next door, what their steps they're taking, because at least where we're located above Archie Briggs Canyon, I truly believe if there was a fire in our area, our geography would be very much against us. And I've found one tool this morning that I found really helpful was Deschutes Dial, just for looking at the ownership of properties that one might be concerned about, and found correlations to part-time residents where their mailing address was out of state. And therefore just starting to look at things and get a better view of how to address them. That's it.
Great, thanks. Thanks for joining us, Kevin. And good to meet you. Lars, anything else from NRCS? Don't want to just skip over you, but I know you already had a chance to share the big news.
Nothing else really, other than been working with Todd Peplin on a collaborative effort on a success story from our last Joint Chiefs. But I'll let Todd explain that.
Okay, we'll get down to him. He's at the near the bottom of my list, but we will get to that. So Lisa M, I'm not sure without the last name I recognize you, but Lisa, do you have anything to share with the group today?
Hi, this is Lisa Mushel. I'm with Century West Neighborhood Association, as well as I serve as the co-chair for the Neighborhood Leadership Alliance. And I'm just about to park, so I can speak just a moment. Century West Neighborhood Association is just about to have their planning session this Thursday for our regular board meeting, and we're getting ready for an annual meeting for the neighborhood coming up in April, and we plan for our topic to be around fire-wise and fire-free. We have held this event previously, and we've had a lot of interest. Can't say that we've had tons of attendance. This is something that is open not just to Century West, but to all neighborhood associations. We're looking at whether or not we're going to have a live or virtual event, and that's something that we'll have to decide this Thursday. And of course, we'll be coming back to Boone and this. We were pretty ambitious when we held the event 2 years ago. I believe we ended up having about, I think about 70 attendees in total. So we'd like to grow that roster. And I just want to thank everybody for their good work. Please don't forget to use the neighborhood associations for disseminating information. I would say that out of the 13 neighborhood associations, on average, these groups have email addresses for approximately, I'd say about 20 to 30% of the residents. And I think everybody knows that emails are not collected by Deschutes County, so it's pretty tough to get those email addresses unless you can get them from realtors like Randy or myself. I'm with Cascade Sotheby's. So lots of great things happening, and thank you for everyone's work.
Great, thanks for joining us, Lisa.
Real quick, Ed. Lisa, do you have a date that you're planning tentatively, like just a loose one? I might have missed it there.
I believe in the past we've looked to hold it around the 2nd or 3rd week of April. We try to hold the event prior to the fire-free collection dates, just right before, because we also anticipate pushing more people. Here on the west side, I know the numbers came out, and it's just unreal how that service is being used. If there was a way to expand fire-free collection on the west side, we'd sure be interested in doing that. And I've reached out previously to try to figure out if there's a way that we can sponsor an expedition too. We're very interested in doing something like that.
Yeah, thank you for that. Yeah, I know you and I have talked quite a bit through email, so maybe we'll pick up that conversation again.
Great, thank you.
All right, great. Nick, Annan, anything to share today? Nope. All right, Nick may not be, oh, there he is.
I'm good. Nothing to add.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thanks, Nick. All right, next would be Commissioner Adair, and I would just note that you may have, if you've attended these in the past, it's typically been Commissioner DeBonne that's attended these at the beginning of the year. The Board of Commissioners does look at committee assignments, and a few of those were changed with this year. And so Commissioner Adair is joining us. And I would just note that Commissioner Adair has been very supportive, especially of Fire Free and adding additional days. And that's one of the reasons why we saw a significant amount of days last year. So thanks for joining us, Commissioner.
Oh, thank you so much, Ed and Boone, for allowing me to be part of this committee. It's really probably where I need to be. I'm one of those people that had a fire go around my house, a fire that actually burned 359 homes and 3 people lost their lives. My husband and I have always been extremely fire diligent, keep your property cleaned up. And honestly, last September 7th, if that fire somewhere else in our county would have started with those 70-mile-an-hour winds, you know, Bend would definitely be looking not so good. And so this year, I really believe that we need to get those fire-free days determined really early. Last year, I don't know what took so long, but it was on my agenda. We talked about it the January 30th, and you know, it was, and then of course, COVID hit in March. So anyway, but this year, I'm hoping that we get those dates out early. I heard the idea about helping with collection on the west side, whatever it is, but everybody really needs to do their part. I actually brought up the question about insurance. You know, there's something, USA actually canceled my policy after the fire went around my house and we only lost 1 tree. It was unbelievable. They canceled me. And so, you know, do you call up your insurance company and say you want to raise your building costs? But really and truly, our policy just went up 25%, but I do believe personally that we're going to have to up our building costs because of what's happening in our community. So everyone really and truly needs to look at their policies, make a decision. Do you have renter's insurance? That's something else for those people that have been living in motel rooms for, as the Red Cross said, months. You can have renter's insurance on your policy. I know it's another burden, but if something happens, you're probably going to be really happy that you do have it. Fire free cards. I think I gave 1,000 out a year ago. I love those cards. They have those great little rules. They're very concise. And every realtor that sells property in Deschutes County should have those cards to give to their clients so they know exactly what they need to be doing. I think it would help amazing. And then I do have a question. We do have that presentation tomorrow. And they were saying that one of the things that possibly hardening of fireproofness for homes is glazed windows. Now, our house personally has glazed windows, and I thought they were really ugly, but what is the benefit? Ed or Boone, can you tell me why glazed windows are better than plain windows?
Well, as far as the code goes, there's 2 choices. It's tempered windows, and not being a window expert, not sure about glaze, but that tempered windows are less likely to break when they're exposed to heat, and or you can also, to meet the requirements of the code, have dual pane windows. And of course, those are also required for energy purposes, but dual pane or tempered are both considered to be more fire resistant than just a single pane window where when it's exposed to heat, it would break.
Okay, so the glazing helps with the breakage then, because
Correct.
I know homes, and when that fire that went around my house, I know homes that were in the middle of a development, brand new homes, actually burned to the ground because of the venting on the attic. The ember went in, and you know, the fire came to our property. You know, the embers blew, I think it was over a mile. You know,
all the hay burned up at my property before the fire even was close. So, you know, you've got to really think about what you're doing. And I so appreciate being on this committee because it is like home. And I always feel like the more we do as individuals, the better it is. So let's hope we can have those, what is it, 3 weekends, 2 full weeks of fire free, and people can really know and make a huge difference to their residents. And yes, praying for snow.
Great, thank you. I did hear from Patty Gittalomo, Sun River. She didn't have an update, so I'm going to go down to Ray Meow, Woodside Ranch and Deschutes Rural number 2.
Good morning, everybody. Happy New Year. First, I want to thank the county commissioners for giving us a grant for our fire-free cleanup again this year. It's really going to make a huge difference into whether we can afford to do this or not. Second is thank Ed for sending my wife, Chris, all that great information for the newsletter. The Fire Education Committee is planning now for their topics for the coming year. So that really helps. And I would say, you know, if anybody needs information on newsletters, Ed's the guy. We are also continuing to educate our homeowners on the wildfire mitigation ordinances or codes that are before the county commissioners this year. Universally, they're very supportive of the having fire resistant construction codes and also for the defensible space landscaping. Our concern is with city developments, basically the elbow and the thumb area in Southeast Bend, and also a large development going in on a country club, and trying to convince the city that, yeah, they are within the WUI, because we are basically essentially all fire fuels. And hopefully they can look at those ordinances or codes going before the county commissioners and see if they want to adapt some of those too. So we're very supportive of that. We are forming what is called a chat group, China Hat Action Team. The incidences along China Hat in the forest area have been increasing lately, which increases our risk of wildfire. So the group is going and discussing how they can actually assist the county, the Sheriff's Department, and the Forest Service to address some of the issues out there so that we can decrease our risk of wildfire. And that's ongoing. And that's it for Woodside Ranch. As far as the Deschutes County Rural Fire Protection District number 2, there's really nothing to report in terms of wildfire mitigation.
Great, thanks for the update, Ray. Okay, got a couple more folks. Bob Poley, Mountain High.
Thank you very much, Ed. Not a lot to report from Mountain High, but we did get our Firewise official signs. And I was kind of surprised that the subdivision name wasn't already printed on those. So we needed to have our subdivision name printed. And luckily here we have one of our board of directors' wives owns a sign shop in Portland. So she has been very kind about doing in-kind donations to us from her sign company. So we had our Mountain High logo printed on the signs, and we chose reflective paint because I noticed from the campfire and what happened in Paradise, California, that even at 11:30 in the morning, it looked like midnight. So I wanted first responders to be able to see our sign even in pitch black, so we made it with reflective paint. So any firefighter coming down Country Club or Knott Road that goes into one of our 2 main entrances will see that they're at Mountain High and will be able to orient themselves. I'm also working on updating the contractor list that Boone has on the Project Wildfire website, and that's going very well. A little feedback is that a lot of these contractors are going, well, gee, a couple of years ago, we had a lot of grants from Deschutes County and did a lot of work, but we haven't seen a lot of work out of Deschutes County lately. And I said, well, it's all based on funding. And so I was really excited to see the Joint Chiefs project coming about I think that'll help a lot of our contractors locally. So that's all I have.
Great, thanks, Bob. Todd Peplin, Deschutes Soil and Water.
Yeah, good morning, everybody. Hope everybody's doing well. The Deschutes Soil Water Conservation District is working hand in hand with NRCS with forestry related work. In the past, we have worked with them with the Joint Chiefs down in South County, helping out with some inventories and status reviews for some of the forest work that they've been doing. One of the items that the NRCS wanted the district to do was actually take some of the folks there and create a success story. So we picked Bill and Susan Warden, and they're down around Shawnee Circle area, just north of Lapine there, and some of the work that they've done. And you can actually see that if you go to the NRCS Oregon website, and up on top, you'll see the little scrolling kiosk there that has different pictures on it. And then there's one that just shows Bill and Susan Ward, and click on that, and there's a story map that shows their progress in doing fuels reduction work and yet maintaining wildlife in their area. And it's done really, I have to say, it's done really well. The NRCS was very pleased in the outcome of that. In case you don't know Bill and Susan, their background, his background happens to be working with different ag types of industries and their sustainability. And he took that sustainability and how to make their property pretty much fire resistant. So they have most of their barns, their houses are fire resistant type of materials. It's quite amazing what they have done over there. And then with the work with NRCS and doing some fuels reduction work, it went from a dog hair stand to just a beautiful stand out there that's has some nice forage for elk and big game out there. And also you got rid of the beetle kill and now you have ponderosa pines that they didn't even realize they had 25 of them out there, that they were so inundated with lodgepole that lo and behold, there they are, and now they're going to survive. So that's one of the things, if you ever get a chance, go to the Oregon NRCS website and view that story. We plan on also working with NRCS and the Buttes to Basin. So we're getting geared up for that and working with Lars and looking at the next steps to talk to landowners, doing some outreach work and some conservation planning with them. So that's kind of what's on our future right now, and that's all I have.
Great, thanks, Todd. I do, and just to note that Boone did put a link to that story in the chat if people want to grab that link. I do have a phone number, not sure who that is, 541-536-2935 if you have anything to share. It's *6, I believe, to come off mute from a phone. And if not, I was going to go back to Alex, and I did kind of skip you, I guess, at the first. I know, again, we shared the news with the project, but anything else from the Forest Service that you want to share with the group, Alex?
Yeah, just, I can just hit on prescribed fire season. We're still planning to have a somewhat of a normal prescribed fire season. I know last spring we were on this region-wide pause on prescribed fire and only burned in kind of some pretty remote areas. But we're looking at having a more normal fire season or prescribed fire season this spring. Lots of projects on board and ready to go on the west side of Bend. Continued work, near the Welcome Station off the Cascade Lakes Highway and west of Tethero. And then I know in the Sun River area, continued work down there with, building off of what all the prescribed burning that happened over the last few years. So can expect some more work between Highway 97 and Sun River. And then, been up in the Sisters area, they're continuing to kind of work on their safer projects. So, even though, we had that pause last spring, I think we're looking at a more expanded prescribed fire season this spring. And hopefully that means more burning near town and more risk reduction near our community.
Hey, Alex, quick question as we're kind of starting to ramp back up with prescribed fire, and we've got quite a few HOAs on the call. Is there what's the best avenue for them to get notifications when you guys are doing burns around their areas?
So so I think in most of those burn plans, those community, they should be on the contact list as far as the email list that the burn boss sends out. But really that Central Oregon Fire website, that'll continually, that'll be updated throughout prescribed fire season. There's an interactive map on that. That'll be, the burning will be updated on that. And then, I guess, and then there's, of course, we've used text alerts and stuff like that in the past too. So I think just really relying on that Central Oregon Fire website and using that for most of your prescribed fire information, because that's where it'll go first. So.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Okay, thanks, Alex. And with that, we are at 9:30. So unless somebody's got something pressing, or if I inadvertently skipped somebody, we will. If not, we'll go ahead and conclude the meeting for today. Thanks for joining us and all your participation. And I guess we'll see you back here next month. I don't think we'll be getting together face to face quite yet. So thanks for sticking with us on the virtual platform and keeping our momentum going. And we'll see you back here in February. Oh, sorry, Kevin. See you waving your.
I am. Can you hear me?
Yep.
Something I just had dawned on me as I clicked on a link over here for the story. There was a video on there from the NRCS about wildland fire safety, and it reminded me of a friend who had mentioned looking at one of the local fire groups, I think Deschutes Forest Collaborative. And if you look at how many views most fire safety videos are getting that people are linking, it's very minimal. And something he had brought up to me about a particular website was the fact that not many people are watching these, so they're obviously not getting spread very well. And I'm wondering just offhand about how this group and others might elicit whether it's the TV or what sites to get videos out, because videos are short enough usually and effective in this modern age for getting people to wake up to certain things. So just throwing it out there.
Yeah, it's a good question. And I do serve as the vice chair for the Deschutes Collaborative, and we're actually working on that exact question right now. So it's definitely something pretty relevant to me.
How do we make wildfire safety sexy? How do you get the videos out that people will actually spread and watch?
Yeah. And yeah, we have worked on making those short so that people will watch them, because I think the longer the videos, the people tend to drop off. We rely on all each of you, have your own connections and networks. And so if people can share organically, that's one way. Another way that we're working on actually convening a larger group of folks here in February around spreading that word through more organizations. So we have our request into a few different organizations with quite a lot more reach, and we'll see where that effort goes. But that is something that we're working on. There is good messaging out there, but getting it out to the community is a whole nother step. So yeah, definitely something we're working on, but could always use some more ideas. So, and Brandy for that
that means Central Oregon Realtors is on our list there. So
I agree with what you said, Ed, about everybody being an individual verbal champion, right? We all have to work individually within our spheres to help get the message out to people. Wildfire stuff's real. You know, I supposedly in Northwest Redmond don't live in some sort of urban interface, but my neighbor had an electrical fire and he tried to burn down the whole neighborhood. So, you know, we all live in it. It's a real thing. So getting that out, I think, is tough, because even on the Central Oregon Association of Realtors website, our core website, we have information about how people can maintain their home for resale. There isn't any reason why we can't put wildfire prevention stuff, but to I think it was Alex's point, click rate is low. People don't watch that stuff. So yeah, verbal champion.
Yep. Okay, everybody. We're a few minutes over, so I'll let you go, but thanks for joining us, and we'll see you next week, if not before.